Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is part two of winning with the closed Sicilian, and this game is between Boris Spassky with the white pieces versus Johan uh, Hjartarson with the black pieces. And this game is from Belfort, 1988. So let's get right into it. E4, C5, Knight C3, Knight C6, G3, G6, Bishop G2, Bishop G7, D3, E6, and now Bishop E3 in this line. Of course, the obvious attack on the C5 pawn is not going to be missed by anyone except the newest of players. But the idea in attacking this pawn is to play a quick Queen D2, followed by a quick exchange of the bishop on G7. How are we going to defend this pawn as black? Black in this game played knight D4. Okay, so this is a very common move in the closed Sicilian, as you can see with the pawn on C4, knight on C6, the bishop on G7, right? Uh, to stop white from playing D4 at one time is almost an automatic choice in the situation by a lot of players. Okay. However, in this position, and this is why it's important to understand what's going on in the position. In this position, it allows white to get an edge. Okay, the correct move here is just D6, just defending the pawn. But we'll see. So knight D4. So remember this. Keep this in mind. So with this quick knight D4, Spassky immediately plays knight CE2. So now this is, again, you have to understand your basics in chess. Why is it that white can make these kind of moves where he's moving the same piece around? For instance, he's playing knight C3, now he's playing knight E2. Why can he get away with this? The reason is because the position is closed. Notice that not one pawn has been exchanged yet. And when the position is closed, you have more time where you can maneuver the pieces. All right, the position was open. White could possibly get into trouble moving the pieces around so many times. But when the position is closed, you have extra time to think more strategically, in a position. So here, the knight on C2 is moved, right, as opposed to moving the knight on G1 to E2 because it allows for the movement of the C pawn when needed. Okay? And for some players, the move will be surprising. All right? Because it's a backward move. Some players that have like a non-flexible mentality. Look at, oh, he's moving a pawn twice. I should be able to checkmate him. Oh, he's moving a piece twice in the opening. I should be able to checkmate him. But remember, when the position is closed, you have a little more leeway. So, of course, as we discussed, the intention to play C3, attacking this knight, and then playing D4 is very clear. So what is black going to do about it? All right. So black is already faced with the dilemma. Now if he just simply exchanges knights, it helps white to simply develop. All right. And this is why this move is premature, even though it looks very good. And as we said, the proper move here is just D6. Here, this was played, and now B6. All right. And now, bishop takes D4. What in the world is going on? What happened to the queen D2, bishop E3, and the planned exchange off bishops? What happened to that plan? And we're going to see that in just a minute. Now, The reason why is because to b6, if the routine c3, knight takes, knight takes, bishop b7, right, queen d2, f5, castle, knight e7, rook f to e1, castles, bishop g5, queen e8, knight f4, knight c6. The position is just equal here. All right, so Spassky wanted to show that black could not equalize in that variation. So he played more ambitiously here. So he played this. So bishop takes d4, and you're going to see c takes d4, of course, trying to preserve the bishop. So he takes with the pawn. C takes d4, and now after c takes d4, e5. This is made possible because of the tactic against the rook. Rook b8. And now the pawn is, of course, threatened to be captured. f4. Notice how this bishop is dealt with. The bishop is now blocked out of the game, if only temporarily. Okay. Furthermore, how to protect this pawn on d4. Okay. So f6, the only way to deal with that. Knight f3, f takes e5, f takes e5, and queen c7, desperately trying to destroy the white center. Knight e takes d4, and now bishop takes e5, and queen e2. Alright, now the smoke is cleared a little bit, and look at the position. We can see that white is better. Okay, white has a great lead in development. Alright, and there's no harmony for the black pieces. Look how crazy the black pieces look. And this is why Spassky played that continuation. Bishop gave up his dark square bishop early to show that there was no equality for black in that line. Okay, so now he's in a kind of a bad positional hole right here. So after queen e2, for example, right, you have this double attack on the bishop. So if the bishop goes back, then just simple moves like knight b5 can be played, queen c7, d4, queen e7, and now you have moves like knight takes a7 or just knight c7 check. So very, very dangerous looking situation just out of a simple opening. This is why black played bishop takes d4, gave up that bishop, knight takes d4, and now queen c5. Okay, now black's main problem is getting the king to safety. Alright, and that's easily more easily said than done, because with this open f file, it's easy for white to just castle or get the rook to the f file and block the escape to the king side. So first, white must deal with the threat to his knight. So knight b3 is played and queen g5. So of course, stopping this queen side castling temporarily. Let me just show you this interesting variation. So if queen e7 and queen e5, forking both of the rooks, and again, that just shows you how bad the position is for black already. Castle was played again, now cutting off the f file, and now knight e7. So now you're like, wait a minute, if he can castle, all he has to do is play knight f6. Again, you gotta work on the tactics, because the queen quickly becomes overworked after h4. Then how do you protect the knight? The Queen has to go somewhere. Queen can't check here, right? Because knight is covering that square. This square is covered, right? But the important squares are these squares. Obviously, the F file is blocked. E5 is blocked, so the knight would just be lost. Therefore, knight E7. Rook A E1. Notice how natural white's pieces look as opposed to the black pieces. All right. Everything is logical. Rook F8. Knight D2. Okay. So the knight is either going here or here. Right. Look at the weakness on the dark squares. What else? Rook takes. Rook takes. Knight F5, just trying to block things down. So he chooses C4. Right, E4 is just good too. King comes to E7. Wow, who wants to do that? G4, B5. And again, this is another principle to keep in mind. Here, white attacks. And then black tries to counterattack. Now, before you make a passive move here, because you got to remember, if this knight moves, then black has a chance of surviving. Basically, like, you know, going into the end game, right? Checking here, maybe after queen takes the knight here, and then trading off a bunch of pieces. And even though he'd be slightly worse in the end game, he can survive. Another principle to think of when you're in these type of situations is if you have the better position, right, and you have the right to attack, you have the better pieces. Usually, a counter blow by your opponent is not going to be sound, right? It's usually bad. Of course, he has to try something. Remember that. He has to try something. So, in this situation, G4 and then B5, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, my position is better. My pieces are better coordinated. Therefore, without even calculating, my first thought is that I shouldn't have to move. That's my first thought. I shouldn't have to just make some kind of passive move and allow him to trade. If that is so, that means my position wasn't superior in the first place, or I messed up earlier. So this is one of those positions where his pieces are jacked up. Rook on B8, bishop on C8, king in the middle, right? My pieces are much more better placed. So there's no way that I should just have to make any kind of passive move. This should be a move that's going to continue my assault. And I just have to look deep enough tactically. Spassky just simply played G takes F5, right? B takes C4, Queen E5, and the game is over. Okay? There's two moves here. One is the threat on the rook, and the other is simply F6 check, picking up the queen. Just refuted the whole concept of black right there on the spot. Very, very, very powerful play here by Boris Spassky.